Okay, good morning, everyone. Welcome to the first PMI breakfast for the May. And today, before we start, we have a few announcements about the upcoming events. Next event we have, that's on May the 6th. That's the first dinner event for the year about Discipline Agile with Mark Lanes. All of you know Mark. He's the VP in PMI Global, who's taking care of the Discipline Agile portfolio. And on the May the 19th, we have a lunch and learn, speaking with experts, the culture of innovation and enabling innovation with project management. This one is sponsored by SAIT. And on 1st of June, we have the PMP prep course starting from 1st of June to 8th of July. We have 2 sessions every week. Registrations are now open in the secure system. And today's slight change of plans, unfortunately, due to unavailability of the speaker who's supposed to talk today. Our VP of Marketing and Sponsorship, Garjeet, stepped in to talk about horns and halos. Thank you very much, Garjeet, for doing that. And finally, I forget to mention this session is recorded, and we'll make sure you get the recording as well as PDU claim codes. And before we start, I would like to thank all our sponsors from Mount Royal to Microsoft to CGI, Emerson, and all our current sponsors who make it possible. And thank you very much, all the members joining in. Garjeet, over to you.
Thank you, Lahiru, and welcome everyone. Thanks for joining me today. I know that there's a change of topic, but I'm hoping, and it's a drastic change of topic. I don't want to mislead anyone, but I'll give you a bit of a description as we kick off here, just so that you're aware of what we're getting into today. Now, let me get into presentation mode. Can you see my screen, Lahiru?
Yeah, all good.
Okay.
And please make sure your questions are in the chat at the end of the session. We'll ask those from Garjeet.
Why is there it is. Okay, so horns to halos. Now, this is a topic that I've put together in presentation format that is something that I've generally had as a personal journey of my own for many years now, a journey of self-awareness, a journey of emotional intelligence. So the topic today is not going to be your discipline agile that you were expecting, but something quite different when it comes to emotional intelligence and the whole realm of how self-awareness works itself into all of our project deliverables, business deliverables, and not just in our professional lives, but also in our personal lives. So I hope you choose to continue to join and continue to walk through this presentation with me and learn a little more about, and help me to learn more about self-awareness and how that applies in our lives. A bit about me before we get going here. I'm Garjeet Tour. I was born and raised in Bedford, England, a bit of a stone's throw away, and moved to Canada, Calgary, when I was 13 years young, kicking and screaming teen. I don't know why my parents chose to bring 3 teens with them overseas at a time where kids are just so resistant to change. But they did so anyway, and here we are all these years later. I am qualified as a business or a Bachelor of Science in Computer Science since 2002 from right here at the University of Calgary. I am a PMP as of 2014, which I pursued from right here at the PMI-SAC. My journey in my positions has taken me on many, many different paths. And as you see here, I have a current list of around 6 different positions that I consider to be current and first and foremost in my life right now. Owner of P&G Builders, that's a construction company that my husband and I established in 2012, which has been quite the entrepreneurial journey for us and extremely rewarding in every sense of the term. So construction in Alberta is what we focus on, and also on neighboring provinces right now. lots of government projects going on right now, which are new and exciting for us, and also helps us to grow in a way that that raises our awareness and emotional intelligence in ways that we otherwise never would have imagined. Manager at TC Energy, I have joined TC Energy, had joined TC Energy as an intern during my computer science degree. And since then, I went back to school, joined the company again, and have been there since. So almost 20 years later, here I am with as a manager of the KXL project, specifically with materials and equipment. And as that project is suspended at the time, I'm looking forward to what my next opportunity will be. So things are always fluid and changing, which also keeps growth front and center. Board member right here, PMI-SAC. So I joined as a board member for your local chapter here. I've been a member since 2014, as I mentioned, and I joined as a board member back in 2020, right before the pandemic sent us all home. So I pretty well have not actually ever had a board meeting in person. I've met most of the board members in person for very fleeting discussions, kind of parking lot discussions really, which has all been enjoyable too. But all of my experience as a board member here has been virtual and rewarding in its own way. So even though I found myself in a virtual setting in a brand new position, one that was a growth opportunity for me, it definitely gave me a lot of insights into how much more we can do in a virtual setting versus even in personal and face-to-face settings. Both have their advantages and disadvantages, as you all know. Owner and speaker at P&G Ventures, which I established last year. I've been busy during the pandemic. So in my capacity right now, I am doing speaking engagements in many different settings throughout the PMI chapters as well as other organizations, which has been really fulfilling for me. So it's something that I learned I had a passion for during the pandemic again, and decided to put some topics together, including this one that I've had a lot of personal experience with, and things that I have found myself coaching and mentoring people on in very informal settings, which now I get to bring into more of a formal environment. But also, I really do want to point out that I still enjoy that whole informal setting as well. So any of these points that we go through today, I hope to learn from you as well past this session. So please do bring them forward as points of clarification or anything that you've learned on your journey. As a speaker, I think that that's something that I would continually want to build into my topics. And last or second last, I'm owner and artist at Closet Art Studio, which I just opened here on Etsy as a global store. I'm a acrylic painter on canvas. I have been for 20 years, so hence the name Closet Art. I am finally coming out of the closet with my artwork and have it up on Etsy for the world to see, also on my Instagram highlights. So it's a meditation type journey for me when I paint. It's the only thing I do where that's the only thing I focus on. My mind doesn't want to go anywhere else. So my journey of self-reflection has really come through in the form of my paintings in many, many different ways. So I see them all as a journal entry, if you will. And last but not least, I am the best mom ever. My kids will not agree with me, but I'm sticking to it because they're not here. So those are, as you can see, a few of the things that I'm involved in. I'm a bit of a busybody, keeps my mind occupied and engaged. Okay, so to get into horns to halos, the whole premise of this discussion revolves around the fact that, you know, this simple question that I really want to start with, it revolves around the fact that we ask others all the time, how are you? How many times in a day do you ask somebody that? How are you? And what kind of superficial, a lot of times, fine, I'm okay, I'm doing all right. You get those answers. How many times do we actually ask ourselves? The most important relationship we have is ourselves. So how many times do we ask ourselves, how am I? How am I doing today? How am I doing today versus how I was doing last week? Am I doing better, worse? Has this pandemic put me into a different mindset? Am I in a place where I need to seek some guidance or some counsel, or I need to really look inside to identify what those emotions are that come up. And as I look inside, I need to be able to identify those emotions in a way that are constructive for me. So we're going to start with, and this whole seminar is going to be a bit of a workshop built into it as well. So grab a pen and a paper or your notepad on your laptop. We are going to go through some exercises on every slide here, and every one builds on the previous one. So please do participate and choose to take this journey of self-reflection with me. The question you're going to answer is, how am I? If you have to look in the mirror and ask yourself, how are you? Because that's most comfortable with you, do it. But if you can really look inwards, and I'm going to pause here for 15 seconds to let you write down the 3 emotions that come up when you ask yourself that question. The first 3 that come to mind, 15 seconds. Okay. Now, when you look at those emotions, feelings, things that you may have wanted to look at, things that you may have identified in the past as things that are real to you. You want to feel happy, you want to feel motivated and inspired. You want to focus on those things, and we get taught to focus only on those emotions that are doing good things for us, or that are going to put us in a happy place. We get taught not to focus on the emotions that society considers as bad. Now, I'm here to tell you that there are no good or bad emotions. They're all correct emotions. They're how you feel. And to ignore how you feel is to suppress certain things in our life, whether they're from our past or our present. It's suppressing a part of ourselves. So to not acknowledge the fact that you might be feeling angry, you might be feeling frustrated, you might be feeling isolated, sad. All of those terms come up usually for people in a negative connotation, which leads us down the path of we don't want to focus on them. We don't want to dig into the reality of why we may be feeling that way, which doesn't allow us to unravel the fact that they came from somewhere, and to identify a path forward for how to build and learn from those emotions. So the sounds that your inner voice is bringing forward, the emotions that it's bringing forward, the thought process, sometimes that negative thought process that your inner wisdom is bringing to you is a voice that actually is something that we can learn from. Again, I think it gets taught out of us. I think children are actually really good at this. And if we can go back to our roots and remember what we were like when we were, 5 years old, and everything would come out, right? The 5-year-olds don't know how to suppress the fact that they are really frustrated right now. You will see that tantrum. I'm not saying that you should have a tantrum every time you're frustrated. What I am saying is that as adults, we should still be able to feel when we're frustrated and put a name to it, put a label to it. But we should also be able to identify how we can apply a method to that emotion to get us to a place that we want to be, versus just let it ride out in a way that it can control or affect certain parts of our lives. So the sounds of our inner voice are wisdom. They do bring up lots of really good things that we choose to interpret in different ways when it comes to our emotions and our feelings. And a lot of this is based on the moment in time that you're doing this, as in right now, it's based on the mindset that you have right now. So you could be in a completely different mindset. Let's say you get somebody say something to you when you're feeling, happy and inspired and motivated, and you take it in a certain way. So maybe somebody told you that, somebody's telling you about their vacation, for example, and you're in a really happy, inspiring, and motivated place, and you're taking it all in, and you're learning from them about their trip to Greece and how great it was, and you're taking it all in as input for your next trip to Greece. And you're learning from them, and you're collaborating, and you're getting ideas from how your trip can be successful as well. Take that same conversation or that same story and that same individual and put yourself in a different mindset. You are now in a place of frustration. Maybe you have some financial issues going on, and that trip to Greece is looking really far away right now. And that same person with that same story comes to you, and they're really excited, and they're, looking for that acknowledgement, and you're a friend of theirs, and they're looking to share their experiences with you. And you take that in a way where this person is now boasting. They want to brag to me about this trip to Greece. They know that I can't go on that trip for another couple of years at least, if that. And you're taking it in a way that is negative. They're coming at me with this story because they want to get me. It's the same story. The only thing that changed was the way that you were perceiving that story. And that all comes from inside. That's all us. That is not the other person. And what we get taught a lot is, and we tend to, again, evolve away from this, is, again, to reiterate, only focus on the positive and the good emotions. Just ignore and don't think about the bad ones. They're all correct. The way you feel is the way you feel. To healthily get out of the way that you don't want to feel is a personal choice. So make that personal choice something that is internal, right? So you have to look inside, you have to get uncomfortable. If it's not comfortable for you to look at why you're feeling anxious, maybe it's a personal relationship right now, maybe it's a business relationship, maybe one of your team members is not performing the way you expect them to perform. And maybe it's something that they're going through. But you can only understand and be empathetic toward them if you can understand yourself. It all starts with our self-awareness, and that's what emotional intelligence is all about. And the whole premise of it starts with the fact that you need to understand yourself first. So these three emotions that you wrote down, we're going to dig into a little bit more to ensure that we're understanding that learning process. But this is the whole what of the next half hour or so. Getting into the why, again, I touched on emotional intelligence a little there already. It does start with self-awareness, and that's why we need to understand it. We need to go in before we can understand out. So that self-awareness is key, and the whole premise, and I would say the entire foundation of emotional intelligence, in order for us to then have social intelligence and social awareness. So starting with ourselves, with self-awareness, and then self-management is what we're getting into, and why we're getting into all of this. So that we can apply it to social awareness and social management, or relationship management, I should say. Empathy, it seems to be the word of the pandemic. I know it has been for me. What is empathy to me? What is empathy to you? Do you understand what the process of being empathetic actually means? And I purposely put the statement down here that I did. You have to empathize with yourself first. And this is why we're digging into this exercise, in order to be able to understand others. So that whole premise of self-awareness starts with, if you want to be empathetic toward other people, you have to be empathetic toward yourself. That's the only authentic way to do it. Monkey see, monkey do, right? If you see your own mind being mindful and intuitive, in a way that you are giving your own self that space, and that same space and respect and empathy that you want to give a friend, it is much easier to apply all of this to being empathetic towards your friend. if you know how to do it with yourself. If you choose not to do it with yourself and only with others, it doesn't have the same impact. It won't come across as authentic because you won't know what it feels like yourself. Thinking traps, these are fun in a strange sense of the word. Thinking traps are something that were introduced to me years ago when I was going through a number of therapy and counseling sessions. There were a number of different strategies that were brought forward in many different ways over many different years for various different reasons. But thinking traps is the one that has stuck with me. So much so that I'm a bit of a minimalist when it comes to keeping paper and things around, but so much so that I actually kept the paper for thinking traps. It's about the only piece of paper that I kept when it comes to any of my, other than journaling and whatnot, which is again a very good exercise in self-awareness. But when it comes to any of the material, if you will, that I've acquired over the years, thinking traps is one of the ones that I decided to keep. So it tells me that it means a lot to me and it's helped me over the years. So I'm bringing it forward to hopefully help you too. Why thinking traps are important and to be able to label these negative thought patterns is because it gives you a way to identify. So I have them listed here, and this is the entirety of what I have on what's helped me over my years. And what I'm going to do is not read you a description of what each of these are. I think for the most part, they're pretty self-explanatory just in their title. But what I do want to do is go through the list here. And as I say the term, I'm going to give you an example of what that sounds like. And maybe it will resonate with you. Probably a couple of these will resonate with you as more prevalent in your thinking, in your thought patterns than others. And if they do, the exercise here, when we get to the end, is going to be to actually identify your emotions that you wrote down as something that might lead you to this thinking trap. But the examples here should give you a way to help to resonate with that. So starting from the top here, fortune telling. This is predicting, right? So I know I'll mess up. I will never be able to manage my anxiety. Black and white thinking. Anything less than perfect is failure. I planned to eat only healthy foods, but I had a piece of cake today and now my diet is completely ruined. Black and white thinking. Mind reading. Others think I'm stupid. She doesn't like me. That's usually a really popular one. I do it all the time. I still do, and I have to catch myself. Overgeneralization. I always make mistakes. I am never good at public speaking. Labeling. I'm stupid. I'm a loser. I'm fill in the blank. Overestimating danger. I will faint. I'll go crazy. I'm gonna die. Filtering, believing that you did a really poor job on a presentation because someone looked bored, even though the majority of people gave you good, positive feedback. Catastrophizing. I don't know if I say that right. Catastrophizing. Take your pick. I'll freak out and no one will help me. I'm going to make such a fool of myself, everyone will laugh at me, and I won't be able to survive the embarrassment, ever. Last but not least, should statements. I should never feel anxious. I must control my feelings. I should never make mistakes. So that's the entirety of the list. I know I have my few that are my thinking traps. I have identified those and labeled those in ways that make it easy for me to identify them. So when I'm going down and I'm feeling a certain emotion, anger, and I identify myself going down a certain thought process, any one of these, let's pick catastrophizing, if I say that correctly. So if I can identify my emotion and I can sense myself going down this path of, thinking that the world is going to end, and I can apply that label along with my emotion and I guess relate the two together, only then can I identify the fact that I am going down a thought process and a thinking process, and my mind is taking me down, my ego is taking me down a path that I don't want to go down. It takes me to bad places. Instead, I can then identify ways in which I can derail that train. So this is the power in my mind, and what's worked for me in identifying and labeling these thinking traps as something that is a middle step, if you will, in our journey toward being able to manage, not control, not eliminate, but manage our emotions. Now, these, I call these demons. They're different, they show up in different ways. So, horns to halos is really that reference toward, taking our demons and turning them into learning and constructive angels for ourselves. So what are your demons out of this? I hope you did identify and check off the ones that are most prevalent in your thinking patterns and in your negative thought patterns. But which ones are they, and which ones show up for you the most? So that's an exercise that you can apply to any thought process that you have. But for right now, and for the exercise of this slide, take the same piece of paper that you wrote your 3 emotions down on. And this will be a bit of a table exercise. So, list your emotions, 1, 2, 3. You can put columns, put 3 for now, 3 columns beside the emotion, including the emotion. And in the middle column there, identify, at least for 2 of them, do all 3 if you want, identify which one of these thinking traps is prevalent for you when you have that emotion. And again, I'll stop here for 15 seconds to let you identify that. All right, I hope you see this coming together for you, because this is the last thing that we're going to cover. Now, there's a certain growth that comes from this, and this is the whole point of self-awareness, is to be able to identify and grow from what we learn. Learning from that inner voice, yes, as I mentioned, is going to be uncomfortable. We're taught to not focus on certain bad emotions and rather just they'll go away. They don't, they're there, they live inside us, and they will always be there. So it is in your best interest to know how to manage them. Antidotes is what comes to mind when I think about the growth from labeling our emotions with these negative thought pattern thinking traps. And when I say antidotes, it's extremely personal. It is something that you need to identify for yourself. Maybe look at a past behavior, a past emotion, a past action for one of those emotions that you identified, and look at what it was that helped you to get out of that. What particular thing did you do? What did you go outside for a walk? Did you, when you were feeling angry and you had to, you identified that you were mind reading, I should say when I identify that I'm angry and I identify the negative thought pattern of I am now going to start mind reading, and I can feel myself doing that already. What do I apply to that can help me to derail that negative thought pattern train? And this is where the growth comes into place. It's going to be different for everyone. What I do is fact versus emotion is what I've got identified here. And I'll talk about that in a second. But everyone will have their own way to derail their own train of negative thought patterns. So what works for me when I'm angry and fall into a negative thinking pattern of mind reading is not necessarily going to be the same thing for you. But you have to find what works for you. And the only way you can find it is to identify that you're actually falling into this trap. You also have to want to get out of this trap. So self-awareness is not just about where am I, it's also about wanting to be better. So again, you can't force anyone to go down this train or go down this path. They have to be willing enough to put in the work, put in that self-reflection, invest in themselves. So I hope you invest in yourself and do identify, really dig deep into each of these emotions. What is it that I have done in the past to get out of this? And how can I apply that going forward in a way that I remember it? I'm angry. Okay, labeled it. I am now going to go into mind reading. Okay, identified it, labeled my emotion with this associated trap. And now what am I going to do about it? Am I going to let it take me down this road of where I've been before and don't want to be again? How can I apply something that I've learned in a way that is effective for me? And what I do, I hope this helps you to identify what this antidote may be, but I look at fact versus emotion. Is there any evidence-based information that I can gain from the current situation? And every moment is going to be different. When I feel angry in mind read today, it's a completely different setting that I go through now and the mindset that I'm in right now than I was 5 years ago when I was angry and fell into mind reading and didn't even know it at the time, but went on that journey. So in the moment that you're identifying this, what is it that you can do to identify fact versus emotion? And in my experience, what has helped the most has been looking for the actual tangible evidence that can prove or disprove what the thinking trap that I'm going down. So for example, I remember talking specifically with my counselor about certain negative thinking that I was going down when it came to texting. Like I'm an adult, and I think about adolescents and the teens that are going through all of these social media issues and all the texting that happens versus the conversations and the eye-to-eye contact that happens. And as a grown adult with my grown adult friends, I fall into these traps of mind reading and predicting what I think somebody is applying to my text when I've sent something and they don't respond. So my fact versus emotion scenario here had to be identified as, if I am falling into mind reading, if it's making me angry that somebody hasn't texted me back, hours later, and I'm still thinking about it, that says more about me than it does about the other person. Identify that. If I'm falling into the mind trap or the mind reading trap, I can label that. And then identifying along with that, what evidence do I have that they're ignoring me, or that they are they don't want to go wherever I just suggested we go? What evidence do I have that they even saw this text? So when you really start to dig into, I am mind reading at this time, how can I provide evidence for my own thinking trap to either prove or disprove it? Yes, it's going to take some work. No, it's not going to always be work. You will get better at it, and you will get good at being able to kind of make this an intuitive thought pattern, which it really should be. This is all intuition for us. Again, it gets taught out of us. We need to bring it back. And those, I think, are really powerful ways that we can identify that. So, it's coming. Your next exercise here for your last column, just pick your most prevalent emotion, the one that it's a real crux for you. You have to identify a way to get out of this. Just pick the one. If you want to do both or all three that you might have done, fine. Pick one and write down your antidote, your personal antidote. And if you need to think about it still, that's fine, but take this 15 seconds to think about it at least, and then maybe come up with one later. But what is it that you can apply to this mind trap that you fall into that takes you down a negative thought pattern, that you can apply in any situation that you feel this emotion, identify the mind trap? What is it that you can do to get out of it? What fact or emotion can you find, and will you look for in order to prove or disprove your own thought pattern? 15 seconds. All right, this takes us to a how slide. You already know this, you guys, you already went through this. So the whole point of building the workshop and the questions into my slide deck here is, by the time we get to this slide, you already know what to do. You've already done it. So take that and repeat it for any of the emotions that come up now. We'll get to a next step slide as well. But the how, just to recap it, the how of what you went through here was really in, a few different sections. So acknowledging and identifying and pinpointing that emotion. What is it that I'm feeling? Giving it a name, labeling the thinking trap that it sends you down or you fall into. Identifying, when does it appear? Is it a certain situation that I'm in that I end up falling into this trap? Is it when I'm alone? Is it when I'm around certain people? So that's also that situational mindset that you can be in, that kind of triggers some of these emotions and triggers a demon to, really come out in us. So give it a name, know when it comes, know when it leaves, and most importantly, know what it tells you. Because it's that internal wisdom that is trying to tell you something. There is wisdom in what our thinking patterns are actually telling us about ourselves. And if we can't figure it out for ourselves, nobody else can. We have to put the work in and look inside. That's the acknowledgement section. Leveraging all of that knowledge is about identifying that lesson. So, again, taking that wisdom and applying it with some of these tactics that you've learned here, applying the fact that the wisdom is teaching us something. So being able to identify that is really leveraging the fact that you've identified and acknowledged that you have many different demons. We all do. They all live in here. It's called the ego in many different books. Eckhart Tolle is probably one of the most famous ones I know about that has really brought the concept of ego to mainstream conversation and allowed things like this to take place, which is fantastic. I'm not sure that I consider the ego as the ultimate evil in our world. I would be somewhere in the middle. We need to manage it. We can't get rid of it. We need to manage it. So leveraging that and applying your antidote, very, very personal thing to do. Please take the time to identify that antidote, and you will thank yourself for this for investing in yourself to actually do this and apply this in your self-awareness journey, very, very quickly. So as soon as you start to identify these things, you will start to reinforce those behaviors. Gratitude. So you want to thank your demon. This might sound so counterintuitive, but these insights that these demons and our ego is bringing us tells us something. Again, it's our internal wisdom. We want to be grateful for it. We get to feel this. So this is a lot of that David Meltzer. I see this all the time on his social media feeds, and it gives me motivation and invigoration. But you get to feel this. We get to be living, breathing humans with a very complex set of emotions. So we have to embrace that. And it's not that, oh my God, I feel I have to feel angry, or I have to go down this negative thought pattern, you actually get to put someone in a situation who doesn't have all of the able body stuff that we have, or able mind, and ask them if it's a bad thing to be able to feel emotion and be able to apply labels and identity and lessons and wisdom and create an antidote. You get to do this, so let's see it as a good thing. So thanking your demons for their insights and their wisdom might sound counterintuitive. It will feel counterintuitive the first few times you do it, but it will get much easier as you get used to it. And then let them go in peace. So letting them go, what I mean is not saying goodbye to them forever. They're there, they're a part of us. But being at peace with them. What I didn't mention in any of my slides, and I should have right from the beginning, is these cartoon character type illustrations that I have were really meant to offset the heaviness of this topic. So I hope that actually did the trick to some extent. I should have mentioned that in the beginning. But the thumbs up and thumbs down, you know, they're coexisting. They might agree to disagree, and that's okay. But it's about that peaceful environment, right? So you're creating peace between your inner negative voice and that chatter that all of us have, and you're learning to tame it. You're learning to take your inner peace-loving person. You're learning to balance the two. They're always there. You just have to balance them. All right, next steps. So what you'll see here is, I have to move my view here. What you'll see here is a list of 5 things that I really would love for you to focus on, at least for this week, and hopefully forever. But at least start with what you have now. So the list that we just generated over this hour of your emotions and your demons and your antidotes, keep those visible. And when I say visible, I mean take that piece of paper or your notepad and keep it up on your screen. Don't close the app down. Don't put that notepad away or your piece of paper. Keep it somewhere where it's easily accessible to you with a pen. And the reason for that is because every time you fall into, and the second step here is recognizing when you fall into that negative thought pattern. When you recognize that, go to your list. And it's easy because you can already see it. It's already there. You know where to go. It's visible. You could be grabbing a coffee and walking by and it's there. So keep it visible. Recognize when you fall into these negative thought patterns. And when you do, learn from what your demon is telling you in the moment. As we discussed, every moment's going to be different. It's not going to be that every time you're feeling anxious, it's going to be the same reason for that you were feeling anxious the last time, and it won't be the same next time. All we can do is identify it, write it down, learn from it, and make sure we can apply an antidote the next time. Fourth step, apply that personal antidote. Is very personal. This is going to be a lifelong journey, but knowing that it is helping you is in any which way is something that journaling is all about, right? So journaling, I think, gets a lot of attention, but not many of us actually take the time to invest in ourselves to actually do it. I know I don't to the extent that I would like to. It's one of my antidotes, journaling, because it helps me to understand my own thoughts. It helps me to slow down my thinking, because I have to catch up with my own hand and I can't write as fast as I think. And we probably can't type as fast as we think either if you do online journals. So apply that personal antidote, whatever it may be, and it's going to evolve, it's going to grow, and it's going to teach you more and more every time you go through and do these exercises. And last but not least, witness and reinforce that personal growth. Please do this. Witness the fact that you have grown from the last time, from when you were not doing this. And reinforce those behaviors by continuing to do them. Witness the fact that this is something that brings you more peace and more understanding of yourself, and it helps you to manage your emotions, not eliminate, not suppress, manage your emotions. I'll leave you with something that I think has been very relevant to me. Again, I'm not asking you to eliminate anything here. I think it's okay to have your pity party. I think it's okay to have those moments where I'm just going to feel sorry for myself, and it feels good to feel bad. It's okay to do that, but you don't want to stay too long. You want to recognize, have your moment. If you must have a tantrum, have the tantrum. I have lots of tantrums, by the way. But identify the fact that this is something that's an emotion. It has a negative thought pattern that you can identify and label and write down beside it. And you have an antidote that you've already identified that you can apply to this. And every time you do that, you get better at it. And every time you have a new emotion that might come up and you have a new mind trap, it's the same journey to identify and apply the same personal experiences and your own antidote to that to be able to get out of it. So have your pity party, just don't stay too long. With that, this is a list of references that I just in life. The first and foremost one is being me since 1978. All of you will have the exact same reference. Learn from that. You are your own best teacher. So self-awareness and emotional intelligence is key to your own personal learning journey. The social channels that I list at the bottom here are key to a lot of what I've done, but a few of the books that I've pointed out or will point out that are relevant to this topic, actually, I don't know if you could see my cursor, but the first one here is Travis Bradbury and Jean Greaves' Emotional Intelligence 2.0. That's my most used book on my bookshelf. And a lot of the concepts that I've talked about here, some of them come from the 4 pillars of emotional intelligence, very key in my learning journey. And then a number of lines down here, I have something from Debbie Ford. What's the title of it? The Dark Side of the Light Chasers, Reclaiming Your Power, Creativity, Brilliance, and Dreams. So this is something that, again, if you can see my cursor, I'm right beside it. It is 2, 4, 5 biographies down. But this is a really interesting one and very relevant to this topic. So I really recommend this particular book if this is a topic that resonates with you and you want to dig into this a lot more. It talks about becoming friends with your own demons. It talks about how to do that. It talks about how to get comfortable with being uncomfortable in recognizing those demons, drawing pictures of them, writing letters to them. It might just take you down a journey that is a lot more self-reflective, not just of our current moment, but also of all of our past experiences. And it's a healing type process. So that book in particular is very relevant to this entire discussion. Lastly, let's connect. I have my social media channels up here. Of course, I am also with the PMI-SAC. So pr@pmisac.com is my email address at the chapter here. And I have a gift for you here. So as I mentioned, my personal self-awareness journey is very much ingrained in the art that I have put together over the last 20 or so years. I didn't know it was my personal meditation journey until I really dug into some of this self-awareness, and I identified that painting was probably the only thing that I do where I'm completely attuned to myself and my thoughts, and I'm all in on this one canvas that I'm, I have a date with for the next couple hours or whatever it is. So I do want to leave you with a parting gift here. So my closet art studio, since I came out of the closet with all of my art, I have a 10% off coupon for you here. So thanks PMI is your promo code if you choose to go there. Purchase or not, I'd love to hear your thoughts. All of it is my personal artwork, and I'm quite excited to have it up as of a couple of months ago. for the world to see. It's my personal online gallery of my personal thought journal and my self-awareness journey. With that, back to you, Lahiru.
Thank you, Garjeet. Any questions from our audience? Feel free to unmute yourself if you want to ask the question yourself. If not, feel free to type the questions in the chat.
I don't have a question, but I just want to say thank you because I found the presentation really helpful. I found that I kind of knew some of the information, but I really liked the way you brought it together. So I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you, Amanda.
Okay, if there are no questions, I'll hand it over to Candida to finish the session.
Thank you, Lahiru. Great job. And thank you, Lahiru, for stepping up as well. Gurjeet, thank you so much. This was excellent. It was refreshing. I know you and I talked about your presentation, but it's the first time I've actually heard it entirely. Very well done. I think for me, you know, a lot of takeaways that it really is about that self-awareness, that self-care first with ourselves. It's like that oxygen theory, right? And then, you know, if we're good with ourselves, then we treat others the same, right? So, you know, we are in this new world of, you know, so many emotions and so many, you know, the words that come to mind of pivoting time and, you know, having to be resilient, just like we were even today, you know, things happened and how we have to just, you know, step up. So this was so good and so refreshing. So thank you very much. Everyone, thank you for participating. We have a few more sessions like Lahiru presented at the beginning, and we really look forward to having you and participate. And yes, please get a hold of us if you have any questions, any feedback. We will be sending a feedback out, but you know, our website, and it has all of our emails. So please keep in touch and be engaged. Have a great, great day.
Just a quick question, Garjeet. Nima want to know whether we can share the slides.
Absolutely. Yes, I will send. Lahiru, is it you who has the info for all the attendees?
We can, what we can do, Garjeet, we can share that with Connie, and she will send that with the video claim code.
Sounds good. I will send it over. Absolutely, Nima. Thank you for the interest.
Okay, thank you very much, everyone. Have a good day.
Great way to start the day. Thank you, everybody.